Hey everyone, I'm back. It's only been a year, been a minute, as they say. Uh, my goodness, what a year! It's about a year ago when we were frantically packing boxes and putting our whole life into boxes and getting everything ready to go and painting and rebuilding a deck. And boy, it was, moving is probably one of the worst things that anyone has to do. I think you'd agree. And then we had to live in an Airbnb for a while. And oh yeah, I was on MasterChef. If you're living under a rock, that was I didn't even have any time to talk about my experience there. So, maybe we'll have some sort of a live thing where we can ask questions and I don't know, maybe even care. But anyway, I'm back, and I wanted to share with you. I've had some time to kind of reconsider what I want to do with the Thousand Cranes Kitchen, and as you know, I've shared my story about my health, and I thought, for the past 3 years now, as I was diagnosed 3 years ago now, I have just put my whole life into research. And I mean, I've been researching my whole professional career, but now instead of looking at what kind of composite resins are best, or whether silver amalgam is safe or it's not safe, or we should have it or not. Everything that I research now has to do with food and nutrition and prostate and how it relates to prostate. And I feel like I've gotten a master's degree. I've done my dissertation. I'm actually writing some articles. And anyway, I thought my best use of this vehicle and these videos is probably to share what I've learned. And rather than kind of being general, we were talking about, I think the last video we did, we were talking about fats, which incidentally, I watched it just not too long ago, and I realized I missed the one of the most important topics, which was trans fat, but we'll leave that for another time. It was already, I think, a 20-minute video, so I'd like to keep these short. And anyway, probably every week, 50, 60, 70 articles come across my desk, and they have to do with all different types of food sources, and healthy foods and antioxidant foods, and how they relate to prostate cancer. And if you've been diagnosed, or you have a family history, these are things that should be important to you. And so I thought, let's just come on here once a week and talk about the latest and greatest, because those articles that are coming across, those are hot off the press. Have just been in print like the past week. So they are the latest and greatest research. And undoubtedly, out of those 50, 60, 70 articles, I come across at least a half a dozen, usually about 5 to 10, that are of really major importance, are very, very interesting. And so I thought, I don't want to share 5 or 10 articles every single week, but let's talk about 1, 2, 3 articles every week, just so that you're up to date on the latest information in prostate health. So what I wanted to do today was talk about 2 of the topics that come up in almost every single paper that I read. So there's this common thread when I'm reading papers that have to do with prostate cancer. One is oxidation, which I don't remember which episode it was, but I keep calling them episodes, and I should probably call them videos. But I talked about free radicals and antioxidants. If you want more information on that topic, I would go and revisit that video. But oxidation and inflammation, chronic inflammation, not acute. So we talk about inflammation, and let's start with this. Let's say that you look in your backyard and in your woods, and you see like a low burn. There's a fire, but it's just kind of going slowly. And at the very beginning, it might even be helpful, right? Clear out some of the old dead branches and clear out the brush and allow for new growth. But the next day, look out there, and it's still burning, and it's still burning, and it's just still burning. Eventually, it's going to start affecting healthy trees and healthy vegetation, and maybe even your neighbor's house or your house. So it gets to a point where this low burn is becoming dangerous. And that's what I would equate chronic inflammation to be. Chronic inflammation is very different from acute. So acute is if you cut your finger or you get a cold, the white blood cells come in and they help your body heal. It's a normal process of how our bodies protect themselves and fight off the bad guys. And the thing with like acute inflammation is, you know, you get the cut and then it turns red, it might swell, it might get hot. There's a whole process that goes through. There's a cascade of events that happen with different types of white blood cells and platelets, and there's a whole healing cascade. But the point is, with acute, you know that there's something going on. With chronic, you might not know that there's something going on. And some of the things in our lifestyle and in our bodies and in what we're eating can affect this chronic inflammation. Obesity, smoking, foods, you eat processed meats and alcohol, and even like environmental factors can cause this chronic inflammation, which is this low burn in your body, which a couple of the things that happen are DNA changes. I mean, it can cause mutations, it can cause an increase in cell growth, it can cause something called angiogenesis. Angiogenesis is new blood supply, and when do we see new blood supply in every single case? In tumor growth. So whether it's breast cancer, prostate cancer, any tumors, they are growing at such a rapid rate that they need a fresh blood supply for nutrients, and so they create hot spots in our body. And there's actually people who are doing thermal imaging, which, if you're interested in this topic, it's a completely non-invasive way of looking at your body. Even for like gum disease, you can use thermal imaging and find the hot spots in your mouth or in your body, in your breasts, and be able to see whether there might be some very early warning signs that maybe a tumor is developing. So that is, again, a process called angiogenesis, and it happens because of chronic inflammation. So on the other hand, we have oxidation, and not to belabor the point because we have talked about this at length, but essentially it's just like your car uses fuel, our body uses oxygen, and whenever we use oxygen, there's a byproduct. Your car gives off exhaust, our bodies give off free radicals. And as you might remember, the way to fight off these free radicals is with antioxidants. And antioxidants we get from good food, you know, fruits and vegetables and nuts and good oils. And basically, I mean, you can go down the list of berries with anthocyanins, and cruciferous vegetables with the organosulfur compounds, and green tea with catechins, and they all have their own nutrients and antioxidants that help fight free radical damage. And that's one of the things that I've learned a lot. I'm having trouble pulling some of them with my boomer brain out of thin air right now. But you know, onions and garlic with allicins, and what else is there? There's pomegranates and ellagic acid. There are polyphenols in so many fruits and vegetables that's really beneficial to us, and that's how we fight off this free radical damage. So as kind of a precursor to what I envision our future episodes, our future videos to be like, I just want to review a couple of papers here, just kind of like the conclusion. So there's growing evidence that there's a connection between oxidation and inflammation, chronic inflammation, and prostate cancer. For instance, there's a paper by Svanos and DiMarzo that says chronic prostatitis, which anytime you hear itis, it's an inflammation. So whether it's sinusitis or arthritis, that's an inflammation in a joint or in your sinuses. So prostatitis is an inflammation in your prostate, which is long-term. It's been associated with an increased risk of developing prostate cancer. Another paper by Yang, men with diets high in processed meats. Processed meats, remember, you open the plastic package, you got an instant sausage, processed meat. It's got a list of ingredients that you can't pronounce, it's processed meat. Hot dogs, mass-produced bacon, sausages. If you're taking a sausage out of a box and microwaving it, that's processed meat. Processed meat is a class 1 carcinogen. We'll remind you of that. Class 1 carcinogen means that there is a boatload of evidence that it causes cancer. Another thing that has, I don't want to be a buzzkill here, but another thing that is a class 1 carcinogen at this point is alcohol. It has very damning evidence that it causes cancer. You know what else is a class 1 carcinogen? Is smoking cigarettes. And you think, well, yeah, smoking cigarettes, that's bad. Well, you know, I'm sorry to say, those of you who like to sit down at the end of the day and have a little scotch or a beer, or a scotch and a beer, bad stuff. And you know, if you're going to have alcohol, I guess the least worrisome would be red wine, as long as you're not drinking the whole bottle. And you know, something like whiskey that's got a lot of sugar, and alcohol. Sugar's the other thing. The sugar's the devil, Bobby. You gotta stop with the sugar. But you're having whiskey, unfortunately, that's a bad one. If you're going to have a spirit, you know, vodka and gin, the clear ones, they're you know, less calories, but really they don't have as much sugar in them. Are they good for you? Absolutely not. Everything in moderation. So you know, keep that in mind. And then getting back to this list, there's one more paper I just like to quote. It's by Rolls, and antioxidants like lycopene. Remember lycopene from tomatoes? Lycopene is in tomatoes. It's an antioxidant, and it increases in power and bioavailability, meaning that your body can absorb it better when you cook it, when you heat it up, and when you have it with a good oil, like a good fat, like olive oil, which, you know, it goes great with, obviously. So antioxidants like lycopene, vitamin C, and vitamin E have been shown to reduce oxidative stress, which is the oxidation. Kind of chronic oxidation is a state of oxidative stress, and can lower your prostate cancer risk. So it can also help with your treatments being more effective. So, you know, in essence, really the things that are good for your body are also good for prostate cancer. You know, anything with the omega-3s, the oily fish, the cold water fish like salmon and sardines and trout, which we, you know, I saw that video, and I thought, you know, I said at the time I'd really like to have another discussion about this, and we never did, and I apologize for that, because I think you'd find it really interesting. But yeah, all the things that we talked about, all of the fruits and nuts and the berries and olive oil, all those things, really, really good. If you're eating meat, yeah, I still eat meat. I don't eat as much red meat, and not that you need to know that, but you know, everything, I started to think about this, everything we're eating, even the you know, you want to eat chicken, okay, great, but you know, all the hormones, the growth hormones, and that they're injecting into the chicken, that can't be good for us. You know, you're seeing children reaching puberty at younger and younger ages. It has to do with the growth hormones, don't you think? I mean, there's just, everything has a consequence. We need more food, we need good food, but now they're even ruining the good food. So things like Atlantic salmon, I don't know that you can get wild caught Atlantic salmon readily if you're in most of the country. And if it's force fed, you know, Purina salmon chow, guess what? It's not going to have that much omega-3 in it, because I think I went over this. The reason that the salmon have omega-3 in their body, they don't produce omega-3, just like we don't produce omega-3. So how do they get it? They get it from eating algae, and they get it from eating plankton, which has omega-3 in it. That's the only reason that salmon is a good source of omega-3, and then we ingest the salmon and we have omega-3 in our bodies. So yeah, there's just, you know, you're feeding salmon corn chips, and not chips, but corn pellets, they're not going to get a whole lot of omega-3s from that either. So unfortunately, we're in a bad situation. So what I'd like you to get from this, instead of thinking of free radicals and antioxidants and anti-inflammatory products as buzzwords, because that's what they've become in our marketing, in our society, in commercials. Free radical damage and take an antioxidant to help protect yourself. What that really should translate to, especially if you have an interest in prostate, is eating better foods, eating whole foods, eating foods that include all of these really beneficial nutrients. They're phytonutrients, phyto meaning plants. So they're phytonutrients that come from plants, and you don't need to become vegan, but just think about starting to eat more broccoli and radishes, and especially Brussels sprouts, to get your cruciferous. Eat your tomatoes, your cooked tomatoes, have juice, have soups with tomatoes in them, or roast some tomatoes in order to get your lycopene. There's a whole new study on mushrooms that I want to get to, and I promise I'll get to that. There's great study on watercress, which is also a cruciferous. I wasn't aware that watercress was. Anyway, what I've come down to is antioxidant plus anti-inflammatory is anti-cancer. So whatever you can do to stifle the chronic inflammation and the oxidation that's going on in your body, the better off you're going to be. So that's my message for this week. I appreciate you hanging out with me. I hope to be on here and be able to do this on a more regular basis, maybe once a week. And I know that you always try, but be a blessing in someone's life. Thanks so much.